West, you bastard! You did this to me, but you'll not escape me. Not this time. H.P. Lovecraft's Bride of Re-Animator, directed by Brian Yuzna, and starring the great Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott, both reprising their roles from the original Re-Animator from 1985. Also returning is Dr. Carl Hill, played by David Gale, and Kathleen Kinmont from Halloween 4. Truly fun sequel in the franchise, in my opinion. I love it. I think it's such a great time. And Jeffrey Combs' performance is completely off the wall, just as good as he is in the original film. And I love how when Dr. Dean Cain and him clash, and Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West keeps reeling him in every time. No matter how crazy he is or how crazy the idea seems. So we meet back up with Dr. Herbert West, the mad scientist who created the serum that reanimates the dead into violent, psychotic zombies. And so what happens is we meet up with them. They're at the Miskatonic Hospital. Now, why in God's name anyone would allow these two to continue to practice medicine is absolutely beyond me. But hence the charm of the film. There's definitely a great cheese factor involved, that 80s cheese. And there's plenty of that in this movie. As was in the original. It's definitely even more lighthearted, I'd say, but there's plenty of over-the-top gore all over the place. Blood and guts galore. And so what happens is Herbert West and Dr. Dan Cain are now full-fledged doctors at the Miskatonic Hospital in Arkham, Massachusetts. They end up getting sent off to a foreign country to serve as medics in this war that's going on. So a lot of people are severely injured, and they work as medics for the military. So that leaves open a lot of possibilities for Herbert West to continue his insane experiments. And that's exactly what he does. As men that are dying and on their last legs, he injects the serum into them to bring them back to life, just as the others, as he did in the first film. Now, what we find out when they return from the foreign country is that Herbert West has evolved, and their studies in science have evolved, and he starts morbidly doodling with human body parts, as Dan Cain succinctly puts it. Like you'll see him put together a leg with an arm, and they'll see them don't twitch around. At one point, he puts an eyeball on a hand, and it crawls around the room. It's crazy, like a little spider running around with an eyeball on it. It's insane. Pretty cool gore effects. The effects in this film were actually done by Greg Nicotero, who works currently on The Walking Dead. And he also worked on all kinds of classic horror movies like Evil Dead 2 and The Day of the Dead, George Romero, and all kinds of stuff. And some of the work doesn't quite hold up today, but I'm not sure whether or not they were going for the all-out horror aspect, because, the original Re-Animator film was kind of a comedy / horror in a way. And definitely that's the case here as well. But it's also based a lot on The Bride of Frankenstein, just as much as it is the original H.P. Lovecraft story, Herbert West Re-Animator. There's a lot of Bride of Frankenstein in there, probably even more so than H.P. Lovecraft, but some could say that story is really based on Frankenstein too. So what happens is Herbert West decides to come up with this idea to create new life, as he says in one of the scenes. And and what happens is Dan Kane kind of falls for this young patient who's dying, and they have kind of a romantic bond going on. And so Herbert West points out that the one part of her that does function well is her head. Um, so of course, what's coming behind that is that he wants to build new life, starting with this young woman's head. And we also find out that he's kept the heart of Meg from the original film, and that was Dan Kane's girlfriend in the original film who died. So they plan to build a new body, a new life, starting with Meg's heart and with the head of the young patient that he's kind of fallen for. So that's how Herbert West reels Dan back in. He's about to move out. He's about to say goodbye to Herbert West forever, but he reels him in with that, with the fact to bring Meg to life. To him it would be Meg because it's got Meg's heart and the beautiful face of the young woman that he's fallen for at the hospital. So that's the basic premise of the film. And we also find out that Herbert's been stealing body parts from the Miskatonic Hospital, the morgue. And one of those being at the hospital that were left over from the events of the first film, the body parts. And one of them we find out is Dr. Carl Hill. That's right, his head is still hanging around. So this other doctor, Dr. Graves, finds Dr. Carl Hill's head, and Carl Hill is sort of a mentor to him. He kind of looks up to him. So she finds some of the leftover serum from the scenes of the crime from the first film, and he injects it into the the back of the neck of Carl Hill's head, and he wakes up again, and he's back, Dr. Carl Hill, the maniacal madman, and he uses his powers of hypnotism on Dr. Graves and gets him to work for him. Gets him to track down Herbert West so they can have war once again. And he gathers up a troop of zombies and to take on Dan Kane and Dr. Herbert West. And it's an all-out war, an epic battle of blood and gore galore, mayhem everywhere, folks. This movie is so fun. And I love how Jeffrey Combs' performance, once again, as Dr. Herbert West, he kills it. We will create new life. And the gore effects on the bride, I have to talk about that, are awesome. They do hold up. And it's really sick when you see them building the bride, putting together the different body parts, one like the arm of a prostitute, the brain of a brilliant serial killer, and you see each body part Herbert West pours the serum on it, and that's how her limbs start to move. And he pours it right on her neck where the head separates. And so each body part he pours the serum over it, and that's how she comes to life. Bam! The bride of Re-Animator. And she's quite ghastly, quite ghoulish, but she's really drawn to Dan Kane, obviously. But she rejects Herbert West, and he doesn't like that. And therein lies the comparison to the original Bride of Frankenstein film, where the monster rejects Frankenstein's monster. And that's what happens with Herbert West. She rejects him in favor of Dan Kane. And he's like, I created you. I gave you life. And you reject me? So they really have a conflict about that, but here we have Dr. Carl Hill tracks them down, and you see his head flying around on little bat wings. It's hysterical. He comes out of this cardboard box and laughing hysterical with his bat wings, his head flying around. He's talking. It's funny as hell. But at any rate, I love this sequel, Bride of Re-Animator. So run and buy it on DVD, and I believe they came out with an even better Blu-ray that's really hyped up. It came out within the past couple months or so. So, at any rate, you have to get this movie. It's a very, very fun sequel to the original Re-Animator. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.